Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about finding a boots on the ground person if you are virtual wholesaling. So, this is very important if you are in a market and you do not have an individual there to check out your properties. So, you need somebody to be your eyes and your ears on the ground for you to go take pictures or file memorandums at the courthouse to show properties to the buyer, and there are several other things that you may need this individual for. So just understand, guys, that if you're doing this, you want to make sure you're coming correct. And what do I mean by this? Understand that you have to know a little bit about what you're talking about. Because if the person that's doing this for you gets the sense that you are absolutely brand new and you don't know what you're doing, then they're going to feel like you might be wasting their time. And that's something that you do not want to do, because you really want to take people's time in consideration and be very grateful. Even if you're paying them, you want to be very grateful that they're taking their time out of their day and doing these things for you, especially if they're showing up on time. And if you need them to do some other things like getting a contract signed, I've had my boots on the ground people do that for me as well. So understand that trust between you and this boots on the ground person is very important. So you want to treat them right, and you want to make sure that they actually are confident in what you're telling them to do. This is very important. So if you're new, I understand that you may come across as really not knowing what you're doing, but there's ways to get around that. And one way to get around that is just to use other newer wholesalers. So one thing we don't want to do is actually go to wholesalers that are established. Let's just say somebody is the biggest wholesaler in your market. You don't want to go to this person and ask them, hey, can you take pictures for me? That's just ridiculous. Think about that logically. It doesn't make sense. What you can do is say, hey, is there somebody on your team that I can pay $50 to so they can go and check out a property for me? And I'm sure if they don't have somebody on their team, that they can recommend somebody for you as well. But you may not even need to do that, because the way that I'm going to show you guys, and I actually do this through Facebook, you probably won't even have to get to this point where you need to reach out to somebody who's larger in your market. You can do that easily, and you can find somebody very easily. So I'll go over that here shortly. But I do want to preface before I show you guys that these things, to make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot. You want to make sure you come across professional. And if you have somebody who's going to check out these houses for you, you really want them to know that you can perform, like you're going to pay them. So my compensation structure is that I pay these people beforehand. So I'll cash out them 50 to $100, whatever price we agree on beforehand. And I'll actually send them that money. You may say, well, Cece, what's keeping them from just bolting and jetting off? Hey man, if you want to take my $50 and just not perform, or even $100 and just not show up, you're only hurting yourself. And this is something I learned being in real estate. I have a very abundant mentality. Now, I'm not frivolous with my money. I don't just throw my money around. But I have this mentality where if somebody wants to do wrong by me, then I look at it like you're only hurting yourself. Yes, you get away with it now, but what's the end game? Can you do that over and over again and make a sustainable business off of it? Can you make a sustainable business off of conning people? So at the end of the day, that person is just going to find out that whatever they're doing is not going to work for them. So let that negative energy stay there. That's some mindset stuff for you guys. But I say that to get to this point is that you just need to trust these people. And you also need to vet them beforehand. So understand, when you're bringing these people on board, vet them properly. Don't just email somebody or Facebook message them and then not have a conversation with them, and then ask them to go out to a seller's house. Why would you do that? That person is the face of your company. They are the representation of your company. They have to be professional, and they are that glue, because you aren't there to smooth things over if something comes up with the seller. You're depending on them. So I want somebody who's definitely on their game. And if they want me to pay them $100 and $50 won't work, I'll pay them $100 to keep them happy. If that means I'm going to get a deal closed that could potentially make me $20,000 to $30,000, Sure, why not? That's an investment into my company. So don't go cheap. However, I wouldn't pay any more than $100 per task. Now, one other thing I would mention, guys, is that if you need a seller contract to get signed, then I probably wouldn't send a boots on the ground person to do this because why? If this boots on the ground person isn't familiar with wholesaling, then that seller may ask them a lot of questions that they may not know the answer to. And then they may actually end up misspeaking and telling the seller that's something you can do and provide for them that's not in the contract. So for my new investors that I have go out and check out these properties for me, I don't have them do anything except say hi to the seller, take the pictures, and leave. I don't have them communicate with the sellers. That's the acquisitions manager's job or the joint venture partner's job, depending on how I have my structure set up in that particular market. So please remember that if you are doing this, you may not want them to go out and sign a contract. And if anything, if you have them going out to take pictures, that seller should already be in the mindset to sign the contract, if not already have signed it. But if you do need them to sign it and say your seller is old, I've had so many of these types of sellers over the years where they don't know how to use the computer or they're skeptical of the DocuSign technology. They're just old school. So they would prefer to sign a contract over coffee or at their house in person rather than on the computer. In these situations, what I do is I actually have a mobile notary sent to them. So you can pay a mobile notary. It's really easy to find them. You should just type in your county mobile notary or your city you're looking for a mobile notary in. Dozens will pop up on Google. So anything dealing with contracts, I have a mobile notary because then the expectation isn't for that seller to ask that individual questions. They're just a messenger dropping off the contract, and it makes things look more legit as well. So if you need a contract signed, you can either have your boots on the ground person do it if you feel like they're capable of that. If not, just have a mobile notary go out there and sign it if your seller is anti-technology or doesn't have a computer. So another thing to realize, guys, is that these don't have to be real estate people, but I'm showing you the easiest way to get boots on the ground. And it just helps using real estate people. Why? Because they're motivated to learn, especially newbies, like beginning investors. They would gladly go check out a house for you because they're getting hands-on experience to view a property, potentially talk to a seller, and they're getting paid. So that's why I like using new investors in new markets. So I'm about to go over to Facebook here and show you guys some searches that I would do to find boots on the ground people and things that have worked for me in the past. So you can use a website like TaskRabbit, and there's a lot of them out there similar to this where you just pay a fee and they'll go out and do a task for you. I know TaskRabbit is one and We Go Look is another one. However, my whole thing is if I'm going into a new market, I want to get away as soon as I can from paying an individual per task. I do that initially to establish trust and credibility, and so that individual knows I can perform. So on the first several tasks, maybe 10 tasks in, I'll pay them every time I need them to go out to that property or to do something related to that property. But eventually, I want to get to a point where I'm just hitting them up and I'm like, hey, we need you to go check out this house. Or we need you to go to this closing attorney to drop off this earnest money deposit from this buyer. You can really spend a lot of money if you're paying them one off. But I do this initially just so they know I'm the real deal. And then eventually it will turn into something where I may just pay them $500 flat a month for any task I need. Or I just cut them a percentage on the back end, maybe like 5 to 10%, depending on what I needed them to do for that particular deal. So the goal is to establish a relationship, and you can't really do that if you're doing these one-off sites like TaskRabbit or We Go Look. Those are good if you're in a desperate spot, but I'm more of an old school person and I just want to network with people and get to know them. And I like one person I'm dealing with. I'm the type of person where I don't like going to a website every time I need something like that. If it's going to be consistent, I just want to have my guy that's doing that for me in that particular market. The same thing with closing attorneys. So when I go into a new market, I may start a relationship off with a closing attorney and pay them for every single little thing I have them do for me. That could be running title searches before I even have a property under contract, or doing some other things related to the deal, as far as maybe checking over my contract to make sure that it looks good for their state, or to communicate on my behalf with the seller or the buyer. Just extra things that they may not do, I'll pay them for those things. But eventually, once they realize I'm the real deal and I've been paying them on time, compensating them for their time, and also paying them timely, and we're like 2 to 3 months in and we've done several deals, at that point, I may be able to hit them up and say, hey, Mr. Closing Attorney, do you mind running this title search? I'm thinking about getting this deal under contract. And then they'll just run it and they won't even charge me. So it's just establishing that type of relationship. It's not getting out of paying people. It's just much easier having your go-to people and that are part of your team at that point, and they're not looking to make a nickel and dime off you every time. Because once you get to that point, there's a relationship being established and you are starting to develop your team that you can depend on. I'm telling you guys, good work is really hard to find. And the last thing here before we go over to Facebook and I show you guys how to find these people is that realtors are definitely a plus. And some of the best experiences I've had was having boots on the ground people that were realtors. You just know that they'll get the job done. They'll follow the appropriate etiquette. They'll be professional. They may charge you a little bit more. For instance, I had a guy in Atlanta a couple of years back. I paid him $75 because he didn't want to do it for $50. And I was like, that's fine. You're a realtor. $75, I'd pay that all day. The pictures were immaculate. They looked like they were professionally done. So that was even better because that helped me sell the house for a higher price to my buyers list. So realtors are definitely a plus, but just know that when you're doing this, the biggest takeaway is not going to somebody with experience. You don't want people with a ton of experience. Even if you are a newbie yourself, it's okay to reach out to another newbie in that market, long as you're just upfront with your skill set and your level. And you may say, hey, I may fumble through this thing, but I need to get this deal done. And if you want to cut them in a larger percentage because you may feel like you may need their help more so than if you were experienced, then do that. Just understand, guys, there's many ways to get deals done. Cut higher percentages and you would be able to move mountains. Trust me, people will go out of their way for you if you actually compensate them right. So you can get this done. It is possible. You may have to talk to a few people, but it is really easy once I show you guys the process. So let's jump over to Facebook and I'll show you guys some of the searches that I would do in a few groups to find these boots on the ground people for virtual markets. I recommend going in larger Facebook groups, and Wholesaling Houses Full Time has an active and large community. And I really like this group. So this is a good place to start. And what I would actually do is don't post because you're going to get banned and it's going to be spammy. Don't do that. There are more than enough posts here in these groups that you can go back and look and find people that may want to work with you. So what I did was I went to Wholesaling Houses Full Time. And in this search bar right here, I just clicked getting started or just starting. So what I would do is type in your city just starting. So let's just say you're in Houston, or your target market is Houston. So you want to find somebody in Houston and you're in, let's just say, Charlotte, North Carolina, and you have a deal in Houston and you need somebody over here. I would type in Houston just starting. And what do we have here? These are new wholesalers, and some of these posts are a little bit older, but it's fine. I'm sure as you look around these groups, you can find more updated posts. But this young lady right here said, are there any wholesalers in Houston, Texas, just starting and looking for advice? So if you have a deal there, you could potentially hit up Valerie. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But you could hit up Valerie and you could say, hey, Valerie, I hope you're having a great day. I actually have a deal in Houston and I see that you're starting there. Would you like to go check out this house for me? I can pay you $50. Just need some pictures. You can get some experience and start viewing houses, and I'll be able to get the pictures. And if you want, and you have buyers there, we can potentially co-wholesale this deal and I can split the profit with you 50-50. Man, somebody who sees that, they're going to say yes. Like, I have not had to send off too many of these messages, probably like 3 maximum when I get in a new market and I usually find the person that I want. So just understand, guys, when you're doing this, talk to them like people. In this day and age, unfortunately, a lot of what I see is people looking at others from a very selfish standpoint. They don't make it mutually beneficial. It's all about me, me, me. We don't want that. We want to make it advantageous for them. So by you helping them get what they want, they're ultimately going to be able to help you get what you want. So it has to be mutually beneficial. And just sound like a normal person. Don't sound spammy. Don't come across as a salesman. Don't try to type up a whole paragraph. Just send them the message and see what they say. So here's another one in Charlotte. I said Charlotte just starting, and this young lady, she posted a more recent post here. And she said, just starting out, learning about wholesaling in Charlotte. So she's really driven to succeed in this business. So just think, if somebody was really driven to succeed in this business, if you said, hey, I want you to check out a property, please, I'm pretty sure this lady would say yes. It's that easy, guys. And I really like Max's group. He does a good job with moderating it, making sure good posts are in here, reducing the spam. So all the JV partners I found, at least in the last year or two, and all my boots on the ground people have actually came from his group. So don't post in there, guys. Please don't post that you're looking for a boots on the ground person. Use the search bar. If you came in my Facebook group posting that you wanted a boots on the ground person, I probably wouldn't approve it. Go in their DMs, approach them directly, say what you have to offer, see if it's a good fit, and then move forward from there. And I'll show you guys, lastly, a message that I actually received when I posted in a group, but I didn't post that I was looking for a boots on the ground person. Basically, the post was that I closed a few deals up and I was looking for JV partners. So I actually got a message from my guy Tony here, and we worked together in Charlotte for a year. And Tony and I, we probably made, I would probably say 80 grand over a year, just wholesaling literally part-time. I mean, we weren't really focused on the list we were marketing to for more than probably 2 to 3 hours a day, because he had his own wholesaling business and so did I. So when I look at this, and this was back in 2018 here, I posted in one of these Facebook groups, and then he hit me up to reach out and connect. And so there it is. That was the message, and it was a wrap. And so he was my partner there in Charlotte for a year. So I hope this helps, guys. If you have any questions on this, let me know. This will get you pointed in the right direction. Just remember, guys, come across professional. I see too much unprofessionalism. Don't spam people. Don't expect people just to do stuff for you because you asked them and you don't provide any value. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I hope you guys have a great day.